All right, good morning and welcome. This is our first information session for the 2019 AECT Leadership Development Internship Program. I'm going to talk about the different components of the application and what needs to be submitted in order for your application packet to be complete, and then answer any questions at the end of the presentation that you might have. My name is Megan Murtaugh, and I received the 2014 Cochrane Leadership Internship Award, and I'm currently the coordinator of the AECT Leadership Development Internship Program. This is my final year. I've done this for 3 years, and usually a former intern serves in this role and serves for 3 years in this position. So that's my role. And after the presentation, and if I answer questions here, but then you have questions later, feel free to reach out to me and connect with me and ask any other questions that you might have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the program. All right. So in our AECT Leadership Development Program, there are 3 different leadership internships that are available: the Carl F. Strobin, the Lee W. Cochrane, and both of those are managed by the AECT Intern Coordinator. That would be myself currently. And then there's also the Jenny K. Johnson internship. That selection is managed by the International Division. However, that internship is only awarded in even years. So that internship is not being awarded this year, but will be awarded next year in 2020. I just wanted to point out the 3 different award types. The Strobin is typically given to a graduate student, and the Lee W. Cochrane Award can be awarded to a graduate student or to a new professional who's entered the field within the last 3 years. So some of the internship highlights. As an intern, you'll be featured prominently through the convention through service at key sessions and meetings. You will have the opportunity to engage with leaders in AECT in the field of instructional design and technology with a not private, but kind of a behind the scenes look at how the association operates. Your leadership growth will be fostered through our mentoring program, where you're matched with a leader to work towards a personal goal over the course of your internship year. You also have the opportunity to participate in a service project with your other intern class members to provide some type of benefit to the association. And there's many different types of projects that have been taken under consideration in the past, and that's something that your intern class decides on what you'd like to do. All right, so eligibility. As mentioned previously, there are 2 different ways that you can be considered eligible. One is if you're a current graduate student, and the other is if you're a new professional in the field of IDT within the last 3 years. And so those are the 2 primary qualifications at first. And then there are a couple of other qualifications, different criteria that need to be considered. So when you put together your application packet, you're going to focus on your service, and that can be in a variety of activities within AECT or outside of AECT. It asks for both areas. Also, you'll be evaluated based on evidence of your commitment to AECT and its programs. So the selection committee will look at your current service to AECT and the service that you plan on providing in the future, how you'd like to get involved with the organization. The evaluation will also look at your emerging leadership within the field of IDT, as well as AECT as an association. What roles have you taken on? What projects have you helped work on? Those types of things. The selection committee looks at all of that information. Another important aspect is your professionalism, and that is usually evident in the way that you word your responses to the candidate statements that are asked as part of the application, and also how you present your resume or CV, and in the responses that your sponsor provides in regards to your character as being a candidate for an AECT Leadership Internship Award. The last and final thing that you'll be evaluated about is your goals and interests and how they align with the internship program objectives. So the objective of the Leadership Development Program is to foster the development of leadership skills within individuals, members of AECT, and help grow our leadership as we move forward as an organization, and help to mentor and develop those skills that are necessary to keep our association going. So the online application packet consists of 3 different things. It consists of applicant candidate statements, which are answered directly in the online form, as well as submitting a current CV or resume, and there's a link provided in the online application that you can use to submit that CV or our resume, as well as you'll receive a confirmation email after you fill out the online application, and in that confirmation email, the link to upload your resume file is in there as well. A PDF is preferred for your resume or CV. You will also need to have a sponsor letter submitted by a current AECT member. The sponsor letters are submitted after you complete your application. So first you'll complete your online application and you'll provide the name, email address, and I think we also ask for the phone number. I'm not positive though, but definitely the email address of the sponsor that has agreed to write you a sponsor letter. Make sure that you have actually spoken with the individual that you identify as your sponsor. Then they will automatically receive a request to submit a sponsor letter on your behalf. So your sponsors do not need to email me directly. They will actually receive a request for a sponsorship letter and the directions for how to submit that file in order for your application to be considered is provided in that request. All right, a little more about the sponsor. Your sponsor must be a current AECT member and may only sponsor one applicant. So make sure that when you speak with the sponsor that you've identified, that they understand they are only allowed to sponsor one applicant. And if someone else lists them as a sponsor, basically whoever the sponsor submits the letter first is usually how I determine who retains that sponsor. So make sure that your sponsor is aware that they're only allowed to sponsor one applicant per year. Your sponsor should be knowledgeable about you and be able to explain why you are a qualified applicant for the Leadership Internship Program. It's really important that your sponsor be able to articulate your potential as an AECT leader and provide specific examples of your character. One recommendation that I usually give is for you to go ahead and answer all of your all the applicant statement questions, and then provide your sponsor with your responses so that they have that to look at as they're writing your sponsor letter. As part of the evaluation, the selection committee will look to see that there's an alignment between what you've presented in your application as well as what the sponsor presents in their recommendation letter. So it's very important that your sponsor highlights different activities you've done, and for them to speak about how they know you as a person, individual, and your potential as a leader within the organization. So here are some important dates. The application opened on April 1st, which was Monday, and it will close on June 3rd. Now it seems like that's quite a long time, but it will go by really fast. I recommend that you start drafting your responses to the candidate statements as soon as possible, and then read them, revise them, have somebody else read through them and provide you feedback before you submit. Try not to wait till that last week to submit because, like I said, your sponsor request letter doesn't get sent out until you submit your application. So the longer you wait to submit your application, the less time your sponsor has in order to submit a letter for you. So keep that in mind. Then once the application period closes on June 3rd, then there's a selection committee that actually reviews all of the applications. And that consists of a former AECT intern, a past AECT president, and also someone from the AECT Foundation, either the current president or a trustee that is sitting on the foundation currently. And those three people go ahead and evaluate the different applicant packets that have been submitted and rank their choices of who they feel is the most qualified for a leadership internship award. And then they get together and have a narrative discussion about the different applicants and come to a conclusion on who they would like to award a leadership internship position. This year, our conference location is in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be at the Westgate Resort and Hotel. And the dates are tentatively October 19th to the 25th. Typically, the interns arrive a day or two before the conference starts and assist with the setup and get a behind-the-scenes look at how the association puts together this international convention. So tentatively, you would arrive on the 19th by 3 p.m., and then you would be released on the 25th as of noon. So you would serve in your role as intern at the convention during that time and engage in different activities that have been scheduled for you. I also take into consideration any proposals that you've submitted and in the scheduling and making sure that you're not missing out on any presentations that you are scheduled to deliver. All right, so after going through all that information, you may or may not have questions. So go ahead and open up questions if you have any. I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Thanks, Megan. This was great. I think it was very clear, and it gave me a better sense of the expectations from the process, or at least the application process. I just have two questions, which are simple questions, but first, the application requires noting down service both outside of the organization and inside the organization. So inside the organization is very clear. Like example for me, I started attending AECT like 4 years ago, so I can understand the range of how much I can speak to that work. But how far back do we look at outside the organization in terms of service? For example, I've served in other roles in other organizations maybe years ago. How far back would something be considered valid or useful in the application? Like I want to submit something like 10 years ago, which is almost like not relevant. So my assumption is 10 years is too long. So I was just going to get a sense of what you think about that.
That's a good question. I haven't had that question posed before. I would say if it's relevant to what you're doing currently, then include it.
Okay.
So if it's a leadership role in an organization that has to do with education or with technology or something like that, then I would say include it. You can always include it and say that you've done this previously, and you can acknowledge the fact that it was a while ago. That's totally fine. I think it's still valid that it's an experience that you had, and it's a way for you to demonstrate other leadership skills. So I would definitely say go ahead and include it, no matter how long ago it was. The other types of examples that I've seen in the past are, like, let's say you belong to your graduate student organization at your university and you serve and help with putting together presentations or guest speakers or something like that. That's also things like that are things that we're looking for in the application. Have you gotten involved in the field and, demonstrated leadership skills or initiative to serve others and to move the IDT field forward.
Okay, so then service may not always include having a position or something. It could be serving in other ways. So like service to the community or service to the university. Okay, I understand. I guess I was thinking that it had to be something like in an official role. Mm.
Nope, you don't necessarily have to hold a position
Okay.
just to demonstrate leadership characteristics. And that could be by assisting with putting together a mini conference or something like that, that you didn't
Mm,
necessarily hold a title, but you helped with the planning and the organization, things like that. So it can be, just other things that you've done that demonstrate leadership characteristics, but not necessarily that you held a title, a specific title for the leadership role.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. The second question I had is on the resume. It's almost default that there will be a very professional looking resume that somebody would normally submit. um, is there any consideration for sort of more creative resumes, or is that something like that will actually be bad for the evaluation process?
Um, we haven't had anything creative submitted in the past. Basically, the format that is accepted is a PDF file. So whatever you're able to put into a PDF file, if you want to express your creativity that way, I'm not going to, discourage it. It would be something unique and different. Might set your application apart. Um, but as long as it's in a PDF file, that because all the materials get submitted to the selection committee in PDF form for them to review, so that
Sure.
it's easy for them to access. And I usually bookmark I put the entire thing together. I put your statements together, your resume, and your sponsor letter all into one PDF bundle, and then
Okay.
bookmark it so that they can find each item easily.
Easily. Okay, I just want to clarify because my current resume is a little different, and everybody has told me you should change it to the usual one. And I said, well, that we'll have to create a usual one, which is also its own challenge. So, I was just, it's risky, but I'm, not sure. So I wanted to
If
just,
you want, go ahead and when you submit your application, submit the one that you currently use. I'll take a look at it, and if I think it's not going to work for the review process, I'll let you know.
okay, that would be great. Yeah, because the one I have now is complete, but it looks and feels different.
Mhm.
And for me to convert that into another format is another process. So thanks, I appreciate that so much. That's my only questions actually. I don't know if Noah, I think there's something in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, Noah. Oh yeah, okay. He just said he doesn't have a microphone and he had no
Okay.
questions at this time.
Well, no, I'm glad that you were able to join us. And I did record the session, so I will definitely send the link to both of you once this is done, and I'll also send the link to the other registered participants as well. Like I said at the beginning of the session, if you determine you have other questions after the session, definitely reach out to me via email, or my phone number is usually on the website as well. And you can go ahead and connect with me. You can send me a text message. Just let me know who you are so I know when I'm replying if you send a text message. And
Yeah.
I'll get back to you. But one of the things I did want to show is on the AECT website. This is the landing page when you go to aect.org /intern program. And so it gives you a brief overview of the different awards. So it gives you an overview of the Strobin, the Cochrane, and the Jenny Johnson. And then both the Strobin and the Cochrane link to the same page, and it gives you a little bit more information about the internship, what the expectations are at the internship, where the conference is being held, the dates, again, talks about the deadline for the application, and that June 3rd is the due date. And the application system will automatically close at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, and will not accept any additional files or submissions at that time. So definitely make sure you plan ahead and submit early, and give your sponsor enough time to get their letter submitted as well. And I do send out reminders periodically throughout the application process. So once you've submitted your application, you'll get a confirmation letter from me. It'll show all of your responses, and then it will also provide you the information for uploading your resume and your CV. At that time, it also initiates a request letter to your sponsor as well. And then I go in and I check to see, when things have been submitted. And if I haven't heard from anybody, like in about 2 weeks after they apply, if I haven't received the sponsor letter or anything like that, then I usually send a reminder out to sponsors. I will also let you know usually the week before the deadline if you have outstanding items in your packet. So if I'm still missing a resume from you, or if I'm still missing a sponsor letter for you, I will reach out to you and let you know at least a week ahead of time if you've applied that far in advance. But I'm still missing those items. So I do follow up, and try to get as many qualified applicants as we can for our leadership program. Other items in here talk a little bit about intern mentoring, and we do provide an opportunity for you to be matched with a leader in the field that has maybe similar interests, research interests as you, or has held positions that you seek to hold within the organization. Excuse me. And usually you'll identify a goal that you want to work on with that mentor over the year after you've been awarded. So it usually starts where you meet the mentor virtually prior to conference. And then during conference, I try to schedule times for you to meet with your mentor to connect and talk and get to know each other. And then there are different check-ins along the year after you are awarded the internship. Eligibility, we talked about that already in the presentation. It's open to graduate students or new professionals. Your sponsor, again, needs to be, I think I might have forgotten to mention, I don't remember if I did this or not, but the sponsor should be someone who knows you in a supervisory capacity. So it shouldn't be a peer. It should be someone who either is your advisor, a professor, or a supervisor at your job, somebody who has been able to observe your performance and can speak to your abilities and your characteristics as a leader. Also should be a non-familial relation as well. The questions that you'll be asked in the online form are right here on the website. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and draft your responses before you go into the online application because it doesn't allow you to go back in and make edits. So I would definitely recommend that you go ahead and draft your responses in Word or whatever word processing software you use, and check for spelling and grammar and all that fun stuff before you submit. Again, I recommend too that you have someone else read your responses and have them give you feedback. I know there's been many times that people have reached out to past interns and asked them to review their candidate statements and provide feedback. So that's definitely an option to consider. And if you need some suggestions for who to reach out to, I can definitely provide that. If you send me an email and say I'm interested in having someone review my statements after I write them, I can reach out to some of the past interns and see who's willing to do reviews this year. The evaluation criteria is pretty straightforward. This gives you different criterion and what an example is for exemplary, average, or needs development. And this is what the selection committee will use to review your entire application packet. So I would definitely recommend reading through the evaluation criteria and making sure that you satisfy the requirements that way as well. Information sessions you guys already know about, obviously, since you're here. If you have any questions, my phone number is here, and also the email address that you can use to send me questions. And then the actual link for the application is at the bottom of the page. So just click on this link and it will bring you to a Google form to fill out with all the information that's requested for you. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you draft your answers to the statements, and so that you'll have that information, and that's on the next page. So all your basic demographic information is asked in this first section. The second section is the candidate statements. And then the third, hold on, at the top here. The third section is your CV or resume, and that section will just give you directions on how to upload your file. It's a Dropbox request that is set up for that. And then section 4 is the sponsor information. So again, you'll need the sponsor's title, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, and also their first name, their last name, and also the correct email address for them. So make sure you have all that information as well before you go ahead and start the online application form. And I think that pretty much covers that. The other thing I did want to point out is there are definitely recordings from last year. And last year we had past interns as guests as part of the webinars. So if you're so inclined, you might want to listen to 1 or 2 of them and listen to some of the responses that the interns provided, the past interns provided about their experiences and also about their application process. I can share my own personal experience. I applied more than once in order to be awarded the internship. The first year that I applied, I had some experience in the organization, but not that much. And then the second time I applied, I had a lot more leadership experience in the organization that I was able to illustrate in my responses. And if you looked at my application from that first time to the second time, you would almost think it was 2 different people because there was so much more that I had done in that time. That doesn't mean that, you have to have copious amounts of activity in AECT. Some activity is definitely beneficial, but I definitely recommend, applying. One of the things that you will end up by having is you'll receive feedback. So if you aren't selected this year, you would definitely receive feedback from me based on your application and areas that you could work on for improvement for future applications. And then if you wanted specific feedback, I definitely provide that as well. So even if you think you're maybe not qualified this year, go ahead and apply, and it'll give you an idea of how, how your application fares against others. And technically, every year there's a different pool of applicants, and so you're kind of compared to also the applicant pool. So you never know who the other applicants are that are applying with you. So you may or may not have more experience than the other people in the pool, and so your chances of getting awarded the internship are just as good as anyone else who's applying, because you don't necessarily know who the other applicants are, and they look at the entire pool when they're doing the review, and kind of filter based on experience and quality of responses as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've not mentioned that would be helpful. It's just, it's a great experience. You definitely get the opportunity to meet leaders in our field, have a behind the scenes look at what goes on. Starting before the conference starts, you get to meet with the executive director, Dr. Harris, and all of the people that go that support AECT in putting on this international convention. And you get to see how it comes together and gets set up prior to attendees arriving, and then attending various leadership events, meetings. When you're awarded the internship, you receive a medal, and that medal is kind of like a backstage pass to get into anything that you're interested in attending. So if you wanted to go to committee meetings or presidential meetings or things like that, you definitely have that opportunity with that intern medal. And then as part of the experience, I usually invite leaders to come have breakfast with you each morning of the conference. And so they share their experiences within the organization and the field of IDT with you, and are available to answer questions for you and things like that. So it's definitely a very beneficial experience, and something that I am very proud to have served in as the 2014 Cochrane Leadership Intern. So it definitely gives you more visibility within the organization. People will be looking towards you, and you will be approached by people that you never expected to be approached by. Asking you questions, asking if you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's quite a humbling experience for sure.
Mm. It sounds great, actually. I think, you've shared a great experience. I'm sure I met Lucas last year. Lucas was an intern. He was on in the GSA group board, so he would share some things too. I think he had a great experience as well. I look forward to maybe having the same experience, because it sounds great. I think it's a great opportunity to have this program for also just general continuity of and what do you call it, succession
Succession
planning.
planning. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a brilliant idea for, in both ways, and I think it's necessary to have something like this to sustain the field, especially if a lot of those that participate in the field are active at AECT and also other conferences. But AECT is almost like a family hub, and I think it's a great idea. And I remember you presenting last year to us, somebody who was overseeing this as well. It's like, I remember her, because I was in that meeting where the interns were presented, like sort of introduced to the group,
Mm-hmm.
or to the leadership group. And that's when I said, and I'm going to keep an eye out on this, because I thought, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's an ideal time to apply, because I'll be graduating hopefully next year. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to share this, because it's really helpful. Yeah, I actually thought the deadline was April 1. So 2 days before, I was like, what? I never knew. I didn't know that this was already open. And then I emailed my chair and I said, did you know about this? I don't. Is it April 1? Then we looked further, and then I realized it's not April 1 that's the deadline, but really just the opening of the application.
Yes,
Yeah, I got a sort of a panic last week, actually.
I understand. Yeah, it's hectic because this position as coordinator kind of runs the whole year, and I'm also juggling other responsibilities as well. So I
Yeah.
try to make sure that I plan everything out, accordingly, and have things.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for doing this.
No problem. Well, thank you so much for coming in. And Noah, thank you for joining us as well. I wish both of you luck. And if there's anything I can do for you, any questions you have, definitely reach out to me and I'm happy to assist.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have
Bye.
a good day.
Bye, Noah. Even though you can't respond.